Losing the Plot. Chapter 19. Are you sure you're up for this, Andy? If you don't feel confident in any way, then you've just got to say. James, I'm fine. I'm not about to jump the Grand Canyon. Yes, but even so, just take it easy and only go the speed that you're comfortable with. Don't worry, James. If I'd learnt anything about myself in the last 4 weeks, it was that being told not to worry pretty much guaranteed that I would not only continue worrying, but my anxiety levels would maintain an upward trajectory towards the red area marked Danger! Brain Disintegration Zone. This was certainly the case in regard to the next series of shots that we were preparing to shoot. The arrival of the cops. Sorry, Andy, it's just that it really would be catastrophic at this point if you slammed into George's vehicle. Sure, I understand, said Andy. Though it would also be rather cool, don't you think? He continued. In what way do you think it would be cool, Andy? I growled. Well, you know, it would make the ending of the film a bit more visceral. The rational part of my brain knew that Andy wasn't being serious and was merely taking the opportunity to wind me up and show off to Carol. But unfortunately, the rational part wasn't in charge right now. It was the shit-scared, freaked-out and cripplingly paranoid part that was currently steering the boat. Andy, please just take it easy, okay? I said. You got it, boss, said Andy, revving the engine with a look of intense glee. I refused to be baited any further and turned my attention towards Carol. How are you doing there, Carol? Great, thanks. Really excited, Carol said with a shrillness that made my ears ring. And how about those lines you've got coming up? I noted. You're okay with them? Abruptly, the blood drained from Carol's face. Fine, I think, she answered before bursting out into an ear-piercing, nervous laugh. I may well have had my worries about Andy's abilities to keep the police car in one piece, but at least fate hadn't allowed an overexcited and hyperventilating Carol to end up behind the wheel. How are we doing, James? Over, said Lucy on the radio. Yeah, all looking good here, I said. Though, should we go for one more rehearsal, just so Andy feels totally confident about his stopping distance? There was a short pause. Steve says no, we must press on. Okay, I'll give you heads up on traffic. I looked back down the road towards the village. A couple of cars pottered slowly towards us, but beyond these two vehicles, the road was clear. Just 2 cars and then you're clear from my end. Over, I said. How is it from your direction, Kate? Said Lucy. All clear my way, came the voice of Kate, who had been co-opted into traffic duty. And remember, Andy, only go as fast as you're comfortable with, I said. Yeah, sure, said Andy with a dismissive wave of his hand. James, Steve says that as we're going for a take on this, Andy needs to really pick up some speed this time. Having overheard Lucy's direction, Andy gave me a big grin and revved the engine. We now had all the ingredients for a perfect storm. There was George, closely pursued by Tom, driving hell for leather down the drive. The icing on the cake was the recent arrival of snowflakes. We've cleared those 2 cars, said Kate. Right, stand by, everyone, said Lucy. What about the snow? I said. Camera rolling, said Lucy, ignoring me. Action, George and Tom. Faintly, in the distance, I heard George and Tom's cars begin to race down the drive. And action, Andy! With the road still clear of traffic, I put up 2 thumbs as a cue for Andy to go. With siren blaring and lights flashing, the police car darted out from the lay-by onto the main carriageway and soon disappeared from view around a corner. I heard the receding sound of the siren's wail, and then, moments later, the distant shriek of squealing rubber. Cut and reset, please, said Lucy. We're going again. How was that, Lucy? I said. Perfect for the drivers, replied Lucy, but we lost power on the camera halfway through. Bollocks, we nearly had what would have amounted to one of the trickiest logistical and potentially lethal shots in the film. And now we'd have to go through it all again, only this time with more snow. How are you feeling about this snow, Lucy? Over? There was a short pause while I presumed Lucy canvassed opinion on the matter. It'll be fine, came Lucy's curt reply. Yeah, what does Steve think? I asked. That is what Steve thinks, Lucy said. He says it'll be fine. In a matter of only a few minutes, the snow had evolved from a light smattering to the beginnings of some significant flurries. I felt duty-bound to pursue the issue. OK, and how about Diane? What does she think? I continued. There was another short pause. Diane says we can work round it, came Lucy's eventual response. This I knew to be Diane speak for, it's a bit shit, but given the lack of viable rescheduling opportunities, it would have to do. Before I could press the matter further, Lucy was back on the airways with a final authoritative word on the subject. James, Steve says the random dog walker that he's just met also thinks that it's all going to be fine. Yes, OK, thank you, Lucy. Point taken. The police car reappeared and swung back into the lay-by. Oh, shame about the camera, said Andy. I managed to get this baby to hit its mark perfectly. Yes, so I heard. Well done. I noticed that Carol was looking a bit green about the girls. Everything OK with you, Carol? I asked. Yes, fine, said Carol, sounding marginally traumatised. You sure? Yes, really fine. It's all right, James, said Andy, attempting to reassure. Carol's just getting used to the change in tempo. Yeah, that's right, concurred Carol. And also the fact that we got really close to George that time. Andy, I said. Chill, James, it was fine. I just think George is getting used to the increase in speed, that's all. So how fast is he going then? Pretty fast, said Carol. I pressed the call button on the radio. George, are you there? Hello, sport, came the sound of a worryingly jovial George. What can I do you for, James? Admittedly, I was in a heightened state of anxiety, but even so, I was convinced I detected a couple of slurred syllables in George's reply. Everything okay with you? I probed. Tip-toppity-top, tip-toppy, old bean, replied an ebullient George. Having the time of my life, actually, racing the old motor. Particularly now it's snowing. Loving the drama of it all. Was this euphoric fearlessness an indicator that George had managed to get tanked up again, or was he just enjoying his final scenes in the film? Just take it easy, George. Road conditions are deteriorating, and I don't want you coming a cropper. George, Tom and Andy, it's all looking great. It was Steve, and I sensed the beginnings of a sound rebuke. When we go again, please maintain the same speed as with the previous take, continued Steve. I repeat, do not go any slower and do not take it easy. This is an action sequence, so let's have some real bloody action, shall we? Yee-haw! Ride 'em, cowboys! Shouted George. Oh dear Christ, I thought. After giving the all clear for traffic, I stood back and watched the police car speed off again. As before, the wailing siren was soon followed by the distant screech of tyres. And then, nothing. No Lucy on the radio announcing cut or reset. No reappearance of Andy and Carol, just the steady and relentless fall of snow. I pushed the button on the radio. Lucy, have you moved on to the next camera setup? No reply. I fiddled with the volume control. I sparked up a cigarette. I tried Lucy again. Lucy, please confirm filming status. Is everything all right? Over. Still nothing. It was hard to know if I'd just been forgotten or something very bad had happened. Suddenly, the radio blurted into life. James, it's Lucy. Can you get here as soon as possible? There's been an incident. Despite the snow and my recent return to treating cigarettes like sweets, I managed to cover the 200 yards or so to the park entrance in no time at all. That's what blind panic does for you. It empowers you with a fleetness of foot that Olympic sprinters can only dream about. During that mad dash, my imagination had more than enough time to fashion for itself a graphic scene of disaster movie proportions. This vision of hell included burning, upended vehicles, dead and dying cast and crew, and swarms of paramedics and fire crews. Thankfully, what I was actually faced with didn't ostensibly appear too disastrous. For one thing, there was a definite lack of cars transformed into fireballs. In fact, both Tom and George's vehicles looked totally unscathed. However, while I paused for a moment to catch my breath and survey the scene through the thickening curtain of snow, I did notice that we were one very important car down. "Where's the police car?" Just beyond that ridge," said Kate, pointing beyond the drive to where the parkland abruptly dipped down into a hollow. "How the hell did it get down there?" "Apparently it swerved to avoid that car," said Kate, pointing to where a black car was parked on the verge. Beside this vehicle stood Diane and Gemma, together with a Middle Eastern gentleman who I presumed was its driver. "Jesus! Anyone hurt?" I said. "Just a bit of whiplash, thank God," said Kate. But the car hit a tree, so I think it might be buggered, James. They're trying to get it started." "Right, I better get down there," I said. "I'm sorry, James. I really am," said Kate, welling up with tears. "Hey, it's not your fault, Kate," I replied, immediately doubling back and putting an arm around her. "No, you don't understand. I forgot to push the button on the radio to warn Lucy about the other car. I fucked up, James." Kate abruptly disintegrated into heaving sobs, and instinctively I brought my other arm around to hold her. "Hey, don't be silly. It's an easy mistake to make." "When you're finished, James, can I have a quick word?" It was Anne. "Anne? Where did you come from?" "Well, I've just come from a crash site, but prior to that, I was happily ensconced in that warm cab over there," said Anne, pointing to the black car. "Fuck, so it was you that—" "What?" Anne cut in. "Are you saying that it was my cab that forced your car off the road?" "Well, not exactly. That idiot actor of yours was driving at about 100 miles an hour. Luckily, my driver managed to swerve past him at the last minute. Anne, I take exception to you calling Andy an idiot. He was meant to be driving fast. It's the big scene at the end of the film." "Have you lost your mind, James? It's fucking snowing and you've got actors racing down public roads without any thoughts for public safety. Actually, Anne, this drive isn't a public highway, and in regards to public safety, we had traffic marshals out there on the main road." Anne looked dismissively at my high visibility vest. "Oh, is that what you are now then? A traffic marshal? I thought you were the big producer, James. The big cheese." "Don't call me that," I snapped back, shuddering with the recollection of the last time I had heard that term. "What? The big cheese? Don't call me that, Anne shrugged, bemused by my sensitivity. "Well, anyway, good to see that your safety measures worked out for you," she said scathingly. "I'm sorry," said Kate. "It was my fault. I didn't push the button on the—" "No, Kate, don't blame yourself," I said, placing a hand on Kate's arm. "You know, James, I really think you've consoled her enough, don't you?" snarled Anne. "Look, Anne, I haven't got time for this," I said. "I've got to go and attend to my team." "Sure, but you don't mind if I tag along, do you?" said Anne. "It's just, I've come a long way today, and I'm feeling a bit rattled by my recent near-death experience. Silly of me, I know." "Do what you like, Anne. I've got a job to do," I said, fairly astounded by the degree of assertiveness in my voice. I set off across the parkland in the direction of the hollow, with Anne following a couple of steps behind me. After 30 yards or so, the ground fell away sufficiently for me to see down towards a small copse of trees. Against one of these trees, with the bonnet up and steam belching from its engine, was the police car. Various crew and cast were gathered around the scene, and I could hear some optimistic soul attempting to fire up the ignition. "So, I see you exercise a very hands-on approach to your employees, James." "Jesus, Anne," I said. "Kate was in tears." "Oh, I see. So a few tears and you're all over someone," goaded Anne. "What about me? I'm upset too, but I don't seem to get the full body hug treatment." Right, that was it. It was time to stop this madness and deal with my oppressor. "Please, Anne," I said, halting and swinging around to face her. "Will you just back off for one moment? Can't you see that this is an extremely bad time to do this?" "Do what?" "This! Accuse me of being inappropriate with other women." "Well, how do you expect me to react when I see you being all grapply with them?" "Oh, for the love of God, Anne, Kate was upset." "Oh, so is that why you gave Carol a job in the end then? Because she was all teary and upset?" I found myself reeling from a direct hit. How did you know about Carol?" "I overheard someone mention her name. She's the policewoman, right? So it's true then. You did give in to your stalker and give her a role." Anne paused for effect before continuing. I wonder why. Right, enough of this bollocks, I said, turning on my heel and marching off. I think Carol's a bit shaken up, called Anne after me. Why don't you go and give her one of your special hugs? I'm sure she'll appreciate it, James. When I got down to the cops, Steve was sat in the driver's seat attempting to get the car started while Toby and Andy prodded around the engine's innards. Thankfully, both airbags had inflated, but even so, I noticed that Andy had a cut on his forehead. Are you right, Andy? I asked. Yeah, bit shaken, but to be honest, we weren't going very fast by the time we finally hit the tree. How about your head? Oh, that, said Andy with a sheepish smile. I banged that when I opened the bonnet. What a tool, eh? Said Toby with a warm laugh. I think Carol might need a bit of attention, though, he continued, while nodding in the direction of a fallen tree trunk where Lucy was comforting a dazed Carol. I walked over to the trunk. How you doing, Carol? Oh, okay, I suppose, she said hazily. Though my neck hurts a bit. I think we need to get her off to casualty, James, said Lucy. Yeah, I guess so, I said with a degree of hesitation. No, really, said Lucy, detecting my reluctance. She needs to be checked out, as does Andy. It's the right thing to do, James. It was the right thing to do, but it also meant that our scene was fucked, which meant our denouement was fucked, which meant our film was fucked, which meant my dream was fucked. Or was it? Even now, with the Parkland being transformed into a scene from Fargo, The Heroes of Telemark, Dr. Zhivago, or any other number of films that were intended to feature vast tracts of snow, I was still racking my brain for some way out. Fuck the ill-fitting uniform. How about I resume my role as the police sergeant and either Kate or Gemma took over Carol's role? Actually, given the state that Kate was in, perhaps it would have to be Gemma. Or how about Diane? No, Diane wouldn't do it. And if Gemma wouldn't play ball, then fuck it. We could lose the police women's role altogether, tweak the lines, and it would just be I who tackled Bob to the ground as he attempted to flee on foot. In fact, with all the snow, it would look like a scene from Fargo. Brilliant! Then we could claim that this was a deliberate stylistic choice, as well as a knowing and reverential nod to the classic Coen Brothers movie. Lucy, can you get Carol and Andy to A&E, but get them changed first? We need those uniforms. Lucy got up and took me to one side. What are you doing? It's over, James. No, it's not. We can work round this, Lucy. Lucy firmly took hold of my arm. Look around you, James, she said with slow deliberation. It is over. Don't you get it? In the background, I heard Steve swear loudly as the ignition failed once again to kick the police car back into life. But we're out of time and we're out of money, I shouted wildly. We've got to get this scene done today. For only the second time on the shoot, Lucy's "Don't fuck with me" front softened, and holding both my arms, she leaned in towards me. Let it go, James, she said softly. Impossible, I thought. Directive does not compute. Warning, production manager malfunctioning. Redirect power to main producer unit. Don't listen. Don't give up. Don't, whatever you do, burst out crying. Close by, a primal and extremely angry voice cried out. It was the sort of cry that, regardless of what you were doing, instantly demanded your complete attention. And it came from the lips of my fiancée. Ah! Thinking that Anne might have completely flipped due to my close proximity to Lucy, I stepped back away from Lucy and put up my hands in a "look, I know grapple" gesture. This didn't do the trick, as a few seconds later, Anne was upon me. I don't fucking believe it, she roared into my face. By the way, everyone, this is my fiancée, Anne. Sweet, isn't she? At which point, Anne punched me square on the nose, and I fell to the ground. As I lay on my back, looking up at my loved one, it occurred to me that this might not be a situation that we, as a couple, could recover from. Guess what, James? I've just had a call from the bank's fraud department, and apparently our savings were transferred into a limited company of which you are company director. Now, before I kick the shit out of you, Would you care to explain? Yep, I reckon we might struggle after this. Cut to. On-screen caption reads, 8 weeks later. Interior, screening room, day. We see a two-shot of producer and director sat in an auditorium. Off-screen we hear the sound of speeding cars mixed in with the sound of a police siren. We see the producer sit forward, intensely watching the screen ahead of him. There is a crescendo of sound as we hear the screeching of tyres, followed by a distinct single sound of crashing glass and metal. Voice of Bob, off-screen and triumphant. It's not exactly a sunset, but it will certainly do me. We hear the sound of Bob laughing, together with the sound of a car driving off into the distance. Cue, end titles music. We cut back to a close-up of the producer, who is exhibiting a mixture of contrary emotions. It is difficult to gauge which emotion has the strongest hold on him. So, what do you think? It's certainly got a beginning, middle and an end. Exactly, one country house murder mystery film with a 3-act structure and a final surprise twist in its tail. Job done, eh? It's certainly a surprise twist. You don't sound convinced, James. Look, don't get me wrong, Steve. You and the editor have done an amazing job, without which, well, we wouldn't have a completed film. I detect a but. Well, I suppose I had my heart set on Kevin being the hero and Bob getting his comeuppance. It just seemed right somehow. But that's the beauty of filmmaking, isn't it, James? You never quite know what sort of movie you're going to get until the very end. A couple of beats while the producer reflects on this last comment. That's bullshit, right? Abso-fucking-lutely. It just so happened that we were able to manipulate the footage so Bob escapes in the final reel. I know that wasn't our original intention, James, but fuck it. Bish, bash, bosh, as you would say. Yes, given the monumental fuck-up of that penultimate shooting day, it's certainly a huge relief that you've been able to make it work, Steve. By the way, where on earth did you get Bob's final line from? Oh, we just lifted it from this obscure little short film that George had been in. Sort of fits, doesn't it? Yes, strangely. Oh, before I forget, I got this envelope from Sir Hugh yesterday. What does it say? It's a revised bill for some frozen pheasants. Sounds like producer business to me, James. Can I leave you to deal with it? Yeah, sure.